Hey, my name is Jenny. In 2021, I self-published a children's book, and it's been one of the most rewarding passion projects that I've done in my life. It was such a learning experience doing everything from writing all the way to marketing the book. So I wanted to give a crash course detailing the processes that I took to self-publish my children's book. So before doing anything, you really need to know the difference between traditional publishing and self-publishing. Traditional publishing takes much longer. It's a 2 to 3 year process, and you'll find that you'll have a lot less control over your actual picture book. But a huge upside is you're going to have a lot more publicity, and you're just going to have a much easier time getting sales. As for self-publishing, you actually have all the control over your book. Since it is much more of an independent process, you do have to figure out a lot of the norms and conventions to children's literature on your own. You also have to think of all the illustrations on your own and just write the manuscript. And if you want that external advice, you have to kind of seek that for yourself. A lot of it is also work at your own pace. So most of the time, this means that it's a much shorter process. And the biggest downside to self-publishing is there is a lot less publicity. You are basically your own marketer. You have to really send the link out to people, get the name of your children's book out there. I do think overall that self-publishing is the route to go to if making a children's book is really like a passion project. Okay, so now I'm going to separate this video into 4 parts: writing, illustration, publication, and marketing. You first want to define the age of your target audience. This will change the word count of your children's book. This guideline is what I use to base my word count off of. The main character should be a few years older than your average age range. So for example, if the average age of your children's book is like a 6-year-old child, then you want your main character to ideally be 8 or 9 years old. This part is so important in writing and illustrating, but you want to take a look at the other children's books out there. One method I really liked is going on Amazon, and you can filter by the age of target audience, and then just start looking at those children's books and really examine the language that they use, the vocabulary that they use, and the sentence structure, and try to really notice patterns in there and see how you can integrate that into your own writing. All children's books are 32 pages, but the first page is the title page, second page is copyrights, and then the third page is the actual first page of your children's book. So from page 3 to 32, that's when you want the rising action, climax, resolution. So you really don't have a lot of pages to work with. So because of that, you need to start the conflict on page 1 and then end the conflict super quickly. For example, in my book, the first page is Julia was painting herself in art class. It's now time to paint my hair, said Julia. She went to grab a purple paint bottle, but she did not have that color. I'm already setting the problem for Julia. This is a children's book called Be Kind. The first page of this book is short and simple. Tanisha spilled grape juice yesterday. Boom. Problem already set on the first page. And then for the last page, again, you want that resolution to be quick. Do not draw it out because children have super short attention spans. So an example of a super quick resolution after the moral of the story. In The Forest of Little Keepers, it ends with, it was Ash and Paul's job to take care of everyone in the woods. And that's exactly what they did. And then boom, like the book ends there. So really as soon as you hit that like climax of your book, just really spend 2 to 3 pages max finishing up the storyline and making the resolution. Another really important thing to do is to write your manuscript with the illustrations in mind. So as you're writing the text on each page, think about what you might want as the illustration for that page. This really helps you figure out which sentences you should remove if the illustrations are conveying that meaning instead. Something also super small is you don't need to feel obligated adding text to every single page. And then as for writing the actual blurb on the back of your children's book, this is going to be the only part of your book where you are writing to the parent and not to the kid. Now you can actually start using more formal language. If you need help writing a blurb on Amazon and just reading to see how they formatted their own blurb. So now moving on to the second part, which is illustration. Illustration will most likely take up the majority of your self-publishing journey. For me, it took around 9 months from the very start of writing to actually publishing it. So illustration took like 8 of those 9 months. So again, just like writing, you want to look at sample children's books, but just really look at a lot of the art styles in children's books and really try to get a feel for which art style really resonates with you the most. First thing, draft your main character and then start drafting other characters. This will just help you practice the art style. And then you want to start illustrating on a storyboard. One big thing is to make each page look different. This is something I wish I did more. I really like this storyboard because each page just looks so distinct. In my book, a lot of the backgrounds that I used ended up looking the same, which is fine, but I really wish I created a lot of different settings, backgrounds. And then once you feel like you're very happy with your storyboard, now is the time for illustration. So this personally was my favorite part. I used my iPad to do all of the illustrating in Procreate, and then I used my computer to add the text using InDesign. I actually wish that I took advantage of a double page spread more, which basically means that there is just one illustration covering both pages. That is so beautiful in children's books. Okay, the front and back cover. Specifically for the front cover, you want to spend so much time on this. This is the page that everyone is going to remember, so really do not rush making this front cover. Again, just looking at examples of children's books can really help. And when you're making the front and back cover, something I noticed that a lot of children's books did is making the front and back kind of like one bleeding page. Like this character is blowing these petals and it's landing to the girl on the front page. Something about the title too, make the font of the title of your book super big. Here are just some more examples of children's books covers. Hair Love just kind of composes an entire top quarter of that book. And then again, in The Proudest Blue, that text is just really taking up most of the space. For the copyright and the title page, these pages, you can very much reuse artwork. So now for the actual publication process, this is honestly one of the easiest steps because of how simple Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing makes it for you. So I'm currently on the Kindle Direct Publishing page, and you just click on Create. You usually want to click paperback. At the time of this video, hardcover is only allowed for a certain page count, and children's books are too short for that minimum page count. So create paperback. So the book title, if this is your first one, you just usually want to skip series. Edition number, also skip. Author, you just write your name. And then description is that blurb that I was referring to earlier. So ideally it should match what is on the back of your book. Publishing rights. You want to select I own the copyright and I hold necessary publishing rights. Primary audience, select that one that you decided when you first started writing the book. Primary marketplace, regular Amazon.com website. Categories, you just choose based on what fits the theme of your children's book. So now for keywords, you ideally want to go onto the Amazon search bar and see what currently is a recommended search. So I found that picture books for children's 4 to 6 was super common keyword search. Once you're done, click on Save and Continue. As a self-published author, usually you would want to select get a free KDP ISBN so you don't have to worry about like the barcode and the number here. Basically does mean that you give Amazon some credit to your work. So then entering your publication date. For print options, I highly recommend choosing premium color interior. Trim size is the dimensions of your children's book. Bleed settings are if you extended your illustration larger to the actual size of the page. So that way, if Amazon KDP accidentally misaligns your illustration by like 1 inch or something, it can use that extra space to fill in the otherwise white space. So if you do use Adobe InDesign, they'll kind of help you build in those bleed settings. So ideally you want to click on bleed. Here is where you would upload the manuscript of your children's book, basically your book's interior. Book cover. And then in here, book preview. This is super cool because Amazon will actually flag errors that they notice, and you won't be able to click on continue until you fix all these flagged errors. So here's an example of what the previewer looks like. So you can look through each of the pages. The rule of thumb is to not keep any text beyond the dotted line because this is kind of just a danger zone. And just make sure that nothing is flagged red. Once you like everything, you can click approve. You can scroll back down. And then at the bottom here, we'll give you how much it will take for Amazon to print each book. So for mine specifically, it will cost $4.20 based on like the paper I used and the size of my book. Click next. Territories just everywhere. Primary marketplace is Amazon. And then here's when you can really start fiddling around with the price. So I priced my book at $7.99. Amazon will take 60% of the money that I make, which gives me 60 cents to make per book, which it used to be higher when I first released the book. If you do want to make a profit out of this, make your book more expensive. Amazon actually just recently increased their printing prices. Terms and conditions. This is requesting a book proof. Basically, if you click on this, Amazon will give you a test copy. I really got to feel the paper in my hands for the first time. I realized that the font just didn't look as good printed than it did on InDesign. So you can tell that I ended up switching the font. So I highly recommend just to make those like last minute edits. And then you can click on publish your paperback book. So that's a little walkthrough of Amazon KDP, very user-friendly. And regarding author copies, definitely print some and send it to friends, family, children, parents, and really get their feedback. I did this with my friends. I sent them a PDF of my book, and then they gave me some suggestions. And if you do want hardcover, KDP as of right now cannot do it because of the minimum page limit. So to make a hardcover, I used Ingram Spark. It's a totally different publishing platform. I think Ingram Spark is cool to add on to your book after you already get a decent amount of sales. I added Ingram Spark once I got around 200 sales. What's nice about Ingram Spark is that this platform also lets you get your book out to other retail stores like Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and the hardcover option will also show up in your Amazon page. To this day, though, I still have found more sales in my paperback because it is cheaper. So now I am going to be moving on to the last step, but honestly the most important part of your self-publishing journey, which is marketing. I found the most success by marketing my children's book out to my local community, especially emailing preschools and seeing if you can do some author visits at preschools. Actually was so helpful for my sales. I got to visit a lot of different classrooms, read about my book, expose my book to hundreds of kids.
I have this app on my iPad called
I also made some stickers for my book that I brought to author visits to just hand out to kids. Donate a few books to your local library. They'd be more than happy to add it into their system. Try to email like a local news channel to see if they can feature your story. I found this so helpful. Like I honestly got hundreds of sales.
Jenny created all the artwork to deliver her message on diversity for 3 to 8-year-olds.
Seeing if you can get into local newspapers and magazines. Local book fair is also super cute. This is also a great way to network with other authors in your area, which I found super helpful just to share opportunities with each other. Try to see if you can get yourself featured in like a local podcast. And of course, social media will be your best friend. I found Nextdoor a super successful platform, again, tying to local community, advertising your book to different Facebook groups. There's a lot of children's books ones out there. If you can get into some for local moms in your area or for artists. And something that also really helped me is if you can try to reach out to some sort of big organization and to see if they can do a consignment deal with you, which basically means you can give them a discount if they buy a bulk amount of your books. And of course, through this entire process of actually now selling your book and really getting it into the hands of children, create a spreadsheet to track your sales. This is a spreadsheet template that I use, and those are my tips around marketing. So that is a rundown of how I self-published my children's book. This is a very long process, but the end result is so, so worth it. The amount of memories I made reading this book to children has been so worth it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope that this video helped. Good luck with self-publishing your children's book.